Hey guys, and welcome back to another Trekyards podcast. I'm Captain Foley.
And I'm Carl Cookins, and we have a guest.
We do. And it's not just any guest, it's one of our team. Somebody that helps us out with making the show. I'd like to introduce everybody out there to Mr. Barry Chapman. Barry, welcome.
Hello.
Now, some quick background for Barry. Now, he's not an editor. He doesn't help on that field, but he helps, I would say, almost a more important thing. He helps with a lot of the custom ships. You guys love ships. This guy has made quite a few of the ships for us. And if you've been paying attention, you've heard his name probably a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen times, just thrown around there. But here he is, and we're going to go through some of his stuff and let him explain what, why, how, who, if, then, maybe. I'm rambling. Barry, introduce yourself properly and stop me, please.
Hello, yeah, I'm Barry. I've been building ships, mostly for Bridge Commander, most of my 3D life. Started in 2008 on the JJ Prize. I built 6 versions of that ship until I got it to a point where I was happy with it.
Oh, wow.
If you look at my YouTube channel, there is a comparison of the first one to the current build. So you can see the difference of something that was made by a nursery school child, something that actually looks like the JJ Prize. My first 3D model was I actually built the interior for the TMP Enterprise. And, I still have the models, but I wouldn't show them to anybody.
Well, one question I have right off the bat, what got you interested in 3D modeling and how long of a process did it take to learn the programs that you're using?
Well, the reason I got into it is because in the early 2000s, Star Wars fan films were becoming a bit of a popular thing. And long before the Trekkie ones really kicked off. And Star Wars fan films, and I wrote my own version of Episode 7 back in the early 2000s.
I want to read that. Can I read that? I want to read it. It'd be great.
Yeah, Spawn of the Empire was its title.
Okay.
And so that's was how I got started. And so I started off with using custom downloaded models rather than making any.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when I first started doing computer program learning back in the early 90s, I wrote my own Star Trek series, Star Trek The Continuing Voyages, based on the Enterprise B.
Oh, cool.
With Captain Peter Kirk in command. So that's why I started building the sets, is because I was going to do that series as a 3D thing. And then I joined the Bridge Commander community. They were very great, like Michael Wiley, and some others like DJ Curtis and some of the other guys. They helped point me in the right direction on things, and progressively I started building ships, and that was my primary thing. I used to work with a guy called Barry Chapman, no relation, who went by the handle of TQ Hood. I think I can't remember, I don't know where he actually got his handle from, but he was based over in the US, so I built the ships, he made them fly. But unfortunately, he died a few years back, another victim of cancer, unfortunately, and my interest in BC started waning after that. And I sort of more concentrated on physical models. So,
The Stuart side.
Yeah, so right next to me right now, I have the Into Darkness Enterprise, which I'm going to be starting soon, and I've got my saucer section from the 1350 refit.
Nice.
I'm currently converting my garage into a model making zone.
Cool.
Stuart's heart's just growing 3 sizes. He's like, I thought it was CG. Oh wait.
Yeah. As I've discussed with you two privately before, I also combine the two worlds by doing 3D printing. So I'm also building a 1-to-1 scale R2D2. So
see, that's what I want. I've wanted one of those forever.
I'll just step away while you go the R2D2 level. Okay, I'll just.
You didn't tell me he did physical models, Samuel. Oh, come back.
I've actually one of the ships we talk about.
He loves R2D2.
Yeah. I've actually done a test print of a certain ship that I made for Stuart. I'm not going to say any more.
That's a hell of a resume, and very, very varied. And it sounds like you've been, putting, a lot of us have these visions of what we want to do. You've just done a lot of all of them over the years, over the decades. you've almost lived the experience. I mean, how does it feel now at sort of, I'm not gonna say the end of that journey, that's odd way of saying it, but at this point you can build any ship, any interior if you have enough time. You know, you can now physically print yourself with R2D2. Just, I don't know why I'm asking the question, but how does it feel just at this point in the story that you can do that?
Pretty good.
Simple
Okay.
answer. I like it.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm a person that if the subject matter interests me, I go all out on it. It's like academically in school, I struggle because it never really engaged. But when it's like, thanks to people like Wiley and that on the BC forums and YouTube, I've learned a lot. You know, I've been using 3D Max now for near on 10 years, and I know, animation side of things, a bit to be desired. I'm still a bit jerky with my animations, but I'm always trying to push it a little bit further every time I do something.
And I do hope that we here at Trekyards, with your your little projects, we help you push the envelope in your modelling.
Yeah, well, it's some of the times it's some of the subject matters is not something I would do personally, but happy to help.
That raises an interesting question, actually, for both of you. Samuel, how did you find Barry, and how did Barry find Trekyards, and how did we start working together?
Personally, I was watching Trekyards before I got involved.
Cool.
Thanks to Doug Drexler and his Facebook page linking me to it.
Nice name drop.
And then I got an instant message from Michael Wiley saying that looking for a constellation.
It links right into the first I was trying to tangent into. We both are the same way, but yours was much sleeker than mine.
Yeah, I decided that my constellation was not up to scratch because it was one I made like 5-6 years ago for British Commander, so low poly. Could have been better. Thanks to the remastered TNG, there's better reference pictures of it. So I decided to kit bash my Connie, and hey presto, another constellation was born.
And that makes me laugh because I asked Michael, we were doing an episode on the constellation. We need obviously the same standard. We want to do it, all the animations. And so I asked Michael because he's working with us on, I can't remember what at the time, probably Renegade stuff. I'm not quite sure. I was like, do you have no, Barry has a constellation. Okay, great. And then you get in contact with you, and you give it to me like 4 days later. I'm like, oh, he's just busy. But no, you only gone built a separate one. I'm like, I didn't need to build one. I didn't spend 20 hours rebuilding one. You maniac. But it was. Yeah, definitely worth it. And then, although I apologise, I didn't do a great job. My very first convert from 3ds Max, I didn't do it particularly amazing. Although I did spend time on the light rig, though, to be fair. So that was everyone's first appearance, being on Pride of Place on the Constellation special, and that was and then I think we sort of kept knocking your door for things. What was the next project after that, Barry?
Andor.
Yeah.
Love the end.
But Barry, you want to talk about specifically one of your passion project ships, I believe.
Yeah, my favourite ship of all time is the Refit Enterprise.
He has some taste to it. He has some taste.
She is the pinnacle of starship design. I like the TOS Connie, but it was refined in the Refit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Funnily enough, the A doesn't hold as much a place in my heart as the Refit, but I think it's the paint job more because it was it was a bit more bland of the A's paint job. It wasn't the pearlescent jewel.
It doesn't pop in the same way.
Yeah, and the blue colours on the strong backs. I did prefer the more green tealy colours on the Refit. But again, on my YouTube channel, you can see a comparison of the two.
Nice.
Yeah. So I said there's two ways of going about doing a 3D model. If it's a Canon ship, it's mostly research. It's trying to find decent views of the ship where you can get it. If you're doing a custom ship, that's for instance the consulate class I made for a competition. Only finished second, unfortunately. That was a lost era competition. So it's anything to do with like the ambassador class era.
Oh, nice.
So I made an ambassador class Reliant. Hence, consulate is a play on ambassador. So that ship was the research was all based on the ambassador, and then everything else was just fleshing out the design. So you start a ship, you see how it goes. You don't like it, you take it back a few steps, and just keep doing it to get it to where you like it.
And so whenever I think of 3D, I mean, I've got to the point where I always use the finished result, but you got to start with something where, even if you've got these 4 views, say for a cannon ship, how does the blank space become these refined curves and all these beautiful things?
Multiple techniques.
That's sort of helpful, Barry.
He's like Data. He's programmed in multiple techniques.
Yeah. You get a circle and a front view of a cylinder. Basically highlight half of it and delete it. So when you finish making one half pretty, you flip it,
mirror it,
copy, weld it back together again. Sources are a bit more easier than that. You just, as long as you got a side profile, you got the line tool. You just basically draw the outline of the saucer, but dot by dot by dot. And then there's a tool called lathe. Once you do that, it turns it into a solid circle, and you just tell it how many polygons you want in it to how many faces. So it starts off as like a hexagon, and the more faces, the more rounder it gets. But that's basically a secondary hull in a saucer done in less than 10 minutes.
But then, what makes the refit? 'Cause I'm very proud of your refit. What makes that model so special and time-consuming? Because I know it's a very.
It's my 3rd version.
Yep.
My first version, I did a guy called Bones McCoy, is his nickname. He did the textures for me because I couldn't draw for hell back then. I was proud of that one because it actually had a saucer separation in the right place. So in the game, you could separate the saucer and rejoin it again. The second one I did everything, and I was talking with Jason Ware. He made a scratch build 6-foot Enterprise refit model. So I basically used his research for the pattern right on the Aztecs. Andy Probert put me in his direction when I emailed him. I've got to say the Trek guys have been helping out me for since the NX refit come out. That's when I first contacted Doug directly, and he is also going back to the Constellation. He done some pictures on his Drex files at the time. So I asked him if he had any orthos. He didn't, so he knocks them up for me.
Wow.
Doug's a top guy. He goes about.
Yeah, he's all right. He's okay.
So my 3rd iteration of it was I used Tobias Richter's model as my ortho thing. So his is the closest I can find to a Canon Connie. Cut windows in it. I've put little rooms inside of it. So when you go past it, there's a good force shift perspective. And the paint job is as close as I can get it to anything that's been real. Using there's a company called Trek Modeler that do a painting guide for the 350 refit for both the A and the refit, and basically I use their guides to paint the model.
Now, it is worth saying that when you say iteration, do you actually mean completely rebuild from those cylinder and...
Nothing carrying over. Completely.
So, but how many hours is that you're basically saying, right, I've finished that 130 hours on that one, let's just do an exact... Cause as a person who uses the models and then needs another ship and needs because for another episode, the turnaround is so quick that to think I'd go back to a ship, spend another 60 hours building, how... It's always confused me about modelers. I mean, I get it for better quality, but it's such a lot of time.
Well, the refit Connie, took me. Bear in mind, I usually work my lunch break, so an hour a day, and maybe a couple of hours at night, and it took me about a month to get the model done, and about another 3-4 weeks to texture it.
Well, this last iteration.
Yeah. The other one actually took me longer because I was still learning technique. Like the TMP nacelles for a novice are quite daunting. TMP ones, TOS ones are easy.
Easy peasy.
Then it's the facades that are tricky, getting those to look right.
Well, the painting them, yes. Making them, no. It's just a sphere cut in half.
Yeah, but I mean the internal glowy blue.
Again, I cheat with mine. I just do a flat texture on it.
But we can't cheat on here on Trekyards apart from when we do with your models.
See, I come from a gaming background where things have to be easier. So, for example, my Ares, that's the flat texture. A ship by
good, though.
Stuart, which I'm not mentioning, is Juncture, is also got a flat texture on the on the thing. So yeah, I was one of the few people in Bridge Commander, getting help from others that had actually working bastards on my TOS ships.
I'll tell you something funny about that. So we were given the because Ares is from the fan from Axnar. The Axnar shuttle Tobias gave me the model of the actual one from the. Cause I was using it for intros for Mission America, and I was having some problems with it. So I ended up using your texture from your fan Ares on his real shuttle to get the bastards looking right. So
That's cool.
Nice synergy there.
Yeah, so the Ares was a good.
It's a wonderful model. I think you can upgrade it as well. I think that might be my second one for me. I think I got you to upgrade that slightly because it was a great. The textures were gorgeous, and I think you just had to update it a little bit because I think the saucer wasn't perfectly circle, and then some little things.
Yeah. With the Ares, the other thing as well is like if you got the TMP Connie refit and you got the Ares and boom, I mocked them together and there's the TMP Ares.
And the amount of times we used to see, oh, is there a TMP Ares? And like, oh yeah, Barry made one. Link.
Yeah.
It exists.
It looks cool.
Yeah.
But speaking of custom builds, I did have a request at one point to do up a certain ship, the USS Foley, and talked to Barry, and he knocked one out in like, what was it, 2 days, something like that. It was ridiculous.
Most of the, as I said, most of the TOS ships are shape-wise relatively basic. So most of the time is knocking the actual geometry up doesn't take long. Right. Especially if you're not cutting windows or anything into the model, it doesn't take that long because when you cut windows, it creates mesh errors and you get shadowy areas, and that's what most of the time the TMP one is getting the mesh clean after you're doing all the modifications to it. Like on the saucer alone, you've got all the windows, you've got the grid lines, you've got the deflector grid lines, you've got you could make a model like Samuel's asked me to look at some models for him, like other things, and looking at them models, there's lots of geometry thrown together to make the shapes. I'd like to try and make things cleanly by joining things together. So that's the challenge, is like putting an impulse deck to merge into the saucer without actually just putting a block on top of the saucer. You get a better blend line. And it saves on polygons as well, which is all render time. At the end of the day, I like to make the models as efficiently as possible. The longest part of it was actually unwrapping the ship. By unwrapping, I mean you take the 3D model and you make a flat image of it, and then you build your textures on top of that. So you turn a cylinder into a flat object. So that's the longest part of it.
Well, I haven't really released a lot of pictures and stuff of the Foley class yet. I'm still looking at it and thinking about it. And looking at it now, I'm thinking I have one or two changes I need to maybe talk to you about, Barry. I don't know if you're up for that, but I would really appreciate it.
Hot tub on the back or something.
Anyway, got all the viewers out there can look forward to the Foley class kind of official episode sometime down the road.
Just from Barry's perspective, I mean, how cool was it to be, you said you're a fan of Trekyards beforehand, and then to be asked, the one and only guy to model the equivalent head of the franchise, of the Trekyards franchise's ship, Yeah,
I say it's when, as I mentioned before, with the Bridge Commander stuff, and when my friend died, I lost my way. I didn't do much modelling anymore. And I pretty much, when you got the Constellation come my way, it got me back into modelling again. And, there isn't a week that goes by where I'm not actually tweaking something.
I got you hooked again. Yeah. Trekyards is the Trek drug that keeps on giving.
I'm enjoying model building again because it's modelling with a purpose. If you're modelling for maybe your own animation, that's fun. But once you've done it,
that's funny because that's what Samuel said to me when he first shot me the first intro for my channel, which brought Trekyards about. Was he knew how to animate and stuff, but without a purpose or without a story to tell, it gets to the point where it's like, So we created Trekyards, and he created some great intros for my channel and stuff. So I mean, it's interesting the way that it all comes together.
But there's one more thing I want to talk about before we. Okay, let's hit one thing before we go. You mentioned interiors. I've always been impressed that you have such a wide variety. I just want to quickly throw to that JJ Prize, interior, because interiors are tricky because the lighting is awful and terrible, but Barry's got some clever techniques for that. And in our second podcast, we're going to look at non-Trek models, but we've got some specific, really nice lit internal stuff to talk about. But I just love the fact that you build these interiors as well, and you build your interiors to the refit, and it's that. In the bridges, I mean, I love it. It's such a again. I'm animating, but you're building. You turn nothing into this what we associate as Star Trek. I mean, it's crazy,
Yeah, the interiors, with the exception of the JJ Prize bridge, they're all internet finds to get plans. There's no real definitive plans for them. As far as the JJ bridge is concerned, I was lucky enough to get in touch with the people that designed the bridge, and a nice lady at Paramount sent me the actual design, the construction set plans for it. So That's built. It is actually as accurate as it can be. It's probably more accurate than some of the games because the proportions are correct. Just never got round to finishing it.
There's one I want to hit before we close out on this podcast. One thing that we didn't really talk about much, and this was a fun one. I don't know if you started it before or I asked you first, but Star Trek Discovery, the initial, I call it the Alpha ship. The initial ship came out. I was at my grandmother's when the announcement came out. I used my small amount of internet on my phone to watch it, but I had to see it. And my dad was confused and walked away when he saw it. And I talked to you and we had a great review of it. And I was like, Barry, we need this ship. We need to have it ready, raring to go so we can do things with it. And we've used it for certain things and some other things we haven't yet released. Was it? Had you already started a model, or were you?
You asked me.
I asked you, and then, I mean, you went from to create. I mean, you had no authorized views, and you had to put it together. And I mean, what was it like to build the future of the parcel staff for ship design? And I think I rushed you with that one as well, just a little bit.
Well, that was actually a quick build because it wasn't that much of a complex ship. The engines were probably the most complicated bit for it to try and get them right. The actual shape of it was relatively simple, even though it would have been nice to have like a top view that wasn't at an angle to get the proportions right. But at the end of the day, you put it next to the studio model that they use, and it's probably going to be well out. But it's good enough for cameras, they say.
Yeah,
I did cheat a little bit with the bridge because I couldn't stand the bridge on there, so I was actually got a refit Connie bridge on it. But other than that.
Yes, we did that great comparison video, which I hope you enjoyed, Barry, with all different ships, and we compare the bridge. And it's like I realized as we're filming it, shit, this is the wrong bridge module because he put his own one on. We're gonna ignore that part of the script because we can't talk about it.
What would you say the length of a ship from beginning to end is for like simple builds, and then more complicated ones like your refit that you really took a lot of pride in?
Wow. Ooh. I don't know if we can talk about the one I did for Fleet Large recently.
You can give some numbers, but we'll tease it. You can give numbers, but not. You can say what franchise it's from, but not the ship itself yet.
Star Wars game.
Star Wars game. So good.
Yeah, that was about, I would say, 2 weeks in the build, at about 1.5 hours to 2 hours a day, and then about another 1.5 weeks to texture it. See again with that one, it was more complicated because we put a interior in it
and some moving parts.
Yeah. So So that one is a bit more complicated, but something like the
Foley class from beginning to end.
Foley class, but the Foley class was a complete fresh build. So there was no. Even though I got a TOS Connie, I never used any bits from it. So that would have been, the actual build itself was about a week. Then the revisions you gave me took about a couple of days to do, and then about another week to texture it, because the textures I did use my old TOS ones as a baseline. So I wrapped the ship in those textures, then I repainted them to the Foley colours.
So it's worth saying that when you say a week, you don't actually mean you're working 7 days a week on it. You mean just a week of your time. Like you managed to put certain time, certain days.
Yeah, I have to obviously spend time with the wife. So I might spend 1 or 2 nights up here playing with it from I put my daughter to bed around about 7:30, so I'll be on it till about 10:30 playing with it. And then say up to a recent laptop death, I used to work on my lunch breaks as well.
That was a dark day, that was.
Nothing gets you away from your desk more than sticking a pair of headphones on, playing some music, and just playing with the ship. A ship can take 3 weeks from start to finish, and a bridge, say for example the TMP TWOC bridge, took me about 2 months to do, because there is a lot of geometry in that, and you can do it dirty and quick, which my first one was, and again, not showing that to anybody. And my I would say my full version, which I've sent some renders to you of, that is pretty cool. I'm happy with that. I would use that for filming.
Nice. Well, I think it's worth jumping in at this point just to say, you know, from everyone here at Trekyards, because you are part of the Trekyards family, but we don't often say thank you enough, and that's why I want to get you on camera to show all of you guys the face behind the name, behind the ships, behind the work. And so thank you so much for all the hours and hours. You know, obviously we all here at Trekyards spend a long time on all the things we do for you guys, but he's also one of those guys. So thank you so much, Barry. And a little applause.
Thank you for making modern fun again.
Yeah, well, thank you for helping us, for sure. It's great. It's great showing off you guys the other faces behind Team Trekyards. It's mainly, it started out just Samuel and myself, but now we've got a few other players in the wings. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this.
I like to think I have this little community of modelers that are all good at different things and different levels of quality. And you know, I've got a guy that's good at surfacing, who's helping me with a separate project Barry's separately helping me with. I've got another. It's this whole network of people that all just want to make stuff for you guys. That's what it's all really about. You know, like you said earlier, Barry, have a reason to make the content and be challenged to make it as good as you can. You know, and then they'll enjoy it.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many models get thrown away before they get handed over.
Oh, don't say that.
Anyway, guys.
On that note, maybe we should wrap this up. So thanks again, Barry, for coming on and talking to us about that, and we look forward to more talks with you about various other projects as well.
Trekyards.
I look forward to it. Always, you know where I am.
Awesome.
Just give us a shout whatever you need. I like to think that I'm the Trekyards engineer.
There you go. Perfect.
I like it.
All right, guys, if you liked the video, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, as always. And I guess there's other ways that you can maybe help us out. And, you know, Samuel?
You're being coy there, Stuart. Just Patreon and monthly donation service, which helps YouTubers like us to keep creating content that you guys love, or a one-time donation at trekyards.com to keep the lights on. I have 2 lights over here. They take at least $100 of battery or power every single day. Need to keep the lights on. If you turn them off, it doesn't help anybody. You know, turn them off, it gets worse and worse. So I need the lights on, everybody. So until next time, guys.
I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Coggins.
I'm Barry.
I will see you in the future. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.